The fluorescent lights from the Walmart sign cut through my windshield at 2 a.m., and I pulled my jacket tighter around my shoulders. This was night number 43, sleeping in my Honda Civic. 43 nights since I'd had a real bed, a hot shower, or any sense that my life wasn't completely falling apart. But it all started with a text message. 3 months earlier, I was sitting in my cubicle at Morrison Marketing, scrolling through my phone during lunch break, when Marcus's name lit up my screen. My best friend since college, the guy who'd been my best man, who'd held me when my dad died, he was texting me about something that would change everything. "Dude, you need to see this. Got you an interview at TechFlow Dynamics. They're looking for someone exactly like you. Remote work, $85K starting. This is it, man. Your big break." I stared at that message, my heart pounding. $85,000. I was making 38 at Morrison, barely scraping by in my studio apartment, eating ramen 3 nights a week. This felt like winning the lottery. "Are you serious? How did you even—" "My buddy Jake just got promoted to VP there. Mentioned they needed a marketing specialist with your exact background. I showed him your LinkedIn, sent him some of your campaign work. He wants to fast-track you." My hands were literally shaking as I typed back. Marcus had been crushing it in tech for the past year, making 6 figures, always talking about the opportunities in his network. I'd been jealous, honestly, watching him post pictures from company retreats while I was debugging email campaigns for local dentists. "But there's a catch," his next text read. "They need someone to start ASAP, like 2 weeks max. Jake said if you're interested, you need to give notice tomorrow." Tomorrow. I looked around my gray cubicle, at my manager who hadn't given me a raise in 18 months, at the motivational poster that said, "Teamwork," with a picture of rowing crew. What did I have to lose? "Send me the details." Within an hour, Marcus had forwarded me an email from Jake Morrison, VP of Marketing at TechFlow Dynamics. The email signature looked professional, the company website seemed legitimate, and the job description was literally everything I'd been dreaming about. Remote work with a team of creative professionals, handling campaigns for major tech clients, opportunities for growth. I didn't sleep that night. I kept reading the job posting over and over, imagining myself finally having enough money to move out of my shoebox apartment, to stop checking my bank balance before buying groceries. The next morning, I walked into my manager's office and gave my 2 weeks' notice. I had no idea I'd just destroyed my entire life. To understand how I fell for this so completely, you need to know about Marcus and me. We weren't just friends, we were brothers. We met during freshman orientation at State, 2 scared kids from small towns trying to figure out college. Marcus was this skinny computer science major from Iowa, and I was studying communications, dreaming of working at some big advertising agency in Chicago or New York. We got paired as roommates and just clicked. For 4 years we were inseparable. When Marcus got dumped by his high school girlfriend sophomore year, I drove him home for the weekend and helped him get through it. When my mom was diagnosed with cancer junior year, Marcus spent every free moment in the hospital waiting room with me, bringing terrible cafeteria coffee and keeping me distracted with stupid YouTube videos. After graduation, we stayed close, even though we ended up in different cities. Marcus landed a job at a tech startup in Austin, and I got hired at Morrison Marketing here in Denver. We'd text constantly, IDO chat every weekend, visit each other every few months. But something changed about a year ago. Marcus started posting different kinds of pictures on social media. Instead of his usual nerdy programming memes, I was seeing photos from expensive restaurants, weekend trips to Aspen, a brand new BMW. His LinkedIn showed he'd gotten promoted to senior developer, then lead developer, then some kind of consultant role that seemed to pay incredibly well. "Tech is just exploding right now," he'd tell me during our calls. "Everyone needs developers. Everyone needs digital marketing. The money is insane if you know the right people." I was happy for him, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a little bitter. Here I was, still making the same salary I'd started with, while my best friend was apparently living the dream. But that's what made his job tip feel so genuine. Marcus knew I was struggling. Marcus knew I deserved better, and Marcus had connections now. When he told me about TechFlow Dynamics, it felt like he was finally able to help me the way I'd always tried to help him. Remember when I drove 8 hours to help him move apartments? Remember when I loaned him money for his security deposit when he was broke after graduation? This felt like Marcus paying it forward. "I've been waiting for the right opportunity for you," he'd said during our phone call that night. "I know how hard you've been working, how undervalued you are at Morrison. Jake specifically said they want someone hungry, someone ready to prove themselves. That's you, man." The trust I had in Marcus was absolute. This was the guy who'd been my best man. The guy who'd spoken at my father's funeral. The guy who knew me better than anyone else in the world. When someone you trust that completely tells you they've found your dream job, you don't ask questions, you just say yes. The interview process with TechFlow Dynamics was unlike anything I'd experienced. Within 24 hours of Marcus forwarding Jake's email, I received a detailed message outlining next steps. "We move fast here," Jake had written. "If you're serious about this opportunity, I need a phone screening by Friday, portfolio review by Monday, and we can have an offer letter to you by Wednesday. We've got a major client project starting next month and need the right person in place immediately." The phone screening felt legitimate. Jake asked smart questions about my experience, my approach to digital campaigns, my thoughts on emerging social media trends. He knew the industry, referenced campaigns I'd worked on that he couldn't have known about unless Marcus had really shown him my work. "Your background is exactly what we need," Jake said. "Marcus wasn't kidding when he said you were undervalued at your current position. We're prepared to make you an offer that reflects your actual worth." The portfolio review was conducted over video chat with someone who introduced herself as Sarah Chen, creative director. She spent an hour going through my best campaigns, asking detailed questions, offering feedback that showed she actually understood marketing strategy. It felt like the most professional interview I'd ever had. When the offer letter arrived Wednesday morning, I actually had to read it 3 times to believe it was real. TechFlow Dynamics is pleased to offer you the position of Senior Marketing Specialist at an annual salary of $85,000, with full benefits, 4 weeks paid vacation, and a $5,000 signing bonus. Position is fully remote with quarterly team meetings in Austin. Start date, Monday, November 15th. $85,000, more than double what Morrison was paying me, plus benefits that actually seemed useful, and remote work that would let me move somewhere cheaper, maybe save some money for the first time in my adult life. I called Marcus immediately. "Holy shit, dude, you weren't kidding. This is incredible." "I told you, man. Jake loves your work. Sarah said you were exactly what they were looking for. You're finally getting the recognition you deserve." That afternoon, I printed out my resignation letter. My manager at Morrison was shocked. I'd never even mentioned I was job hunting. When I told him about the salary bump, he actually laughed. "85 grand for marketing? In this economy? Well, good luck with that." His condescending tone just confirmed I was making the right choice. I spent my last 2 weeks at Morrison burning every bridge I could find. When they asked if I'd stay an extra week to train my replacement, I said no. When they offered to match my new salary, I laughed in their face. "You should have thought of that 18 months ago," I told my manager on my last day. I cleaned out my desk, deleted my company email account, and walked out of Morrison Marketing forever, absolutely convinced I was walking into the best job of my life. The signing bonus check arrived Friday afternoon. $5,000, drawn on Austin First National Bank, with TechFlow Dynamics letterhead. I deposited it immediately and used it to pay off my credit cards. Everything was falling into place perfectly. Maybe too perfectly. Monday morning, November 15th. My first day as Senior Marketing Specialist at TechFlow Dynamics. I woke up at 7 a.m., made coffee in my nicest mug, and set up my laptop at my kitchen table. Jake had told me to expect a welcome email with login credentials and my first project assignments by 8 a.m. 8 a.m. came and went. No email. I checked my spam folder, refreshed my inbox, even restarted my computer. Nothing. At 8:30, I called the main office number from the company website. "The number you have dialed has been disconnected or is no longer in service." My stomach dropped. I tried Jake's direct number from his email signature. "The number you have dialed has been disconnected or is no longer in service." Panic started creeping in, but I told myself to stay calm. Maybe they were having technical difficulties. Startups moved fast. Sometimes things got mixed up. I sent Jake an email explaining I hadn't received my login information. The email bounced back immediately. "Delivery failed. Address not found." I pulled up the TechFlow Dynamics website. The page wouldn't load. "This site can't be reached. The server IP address could not be found." My hands were shaking as I tried Sarah Chen's email. Bounced. The HR contact from my offer letter. Bounced. Every single email address associated with TechFlow Dynamics was dead. I called Marcus. "The number you have reached is not in service." "What?" I tried his work phone, straight to a generic voicemail that didn't mention his name. I sent him a text, an Instagram message, tried him on Facebook Messenger. Everything showed as delivered, but no response. By noon, I was hyperventilating in my kitchen. I drove to the bank where I'd deposited the signing bonus check. "Sir, I'm sorry, but that check was returned for insufficient funds 3 days ago. We've been trying to contact you. Your account is currently overdrawn by $5,847. The room started spinning. "That's impossible. The check cleared. I used that money to pay off my credit cards." The check appeared to clear initially, but the issuing bank reported it as fraudulent. The funds were withdrawn from your account on Friday. I stumbled out of the bank and sat in my car, trying to process what was happening. The job was fake. The company was fake. The check was fake. Everything was fake. And I'd quit my real job for it. I called Morrison Marketing, desperate to explain what had happened, to beg for my job back. "I'm sorry, but we've already hired your replacement," my former manager said. "She started this morning. Even if we wanted to help you, there's no position available." That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, trying to understand how this had happened. Marcus had been my best friend for 8 years. Why would he destroy my life? How was any of this even possible? My rent was due in 6 days, and I had negative money in my bank account. I had no job, no savings, and apparently no best friend. I was completely, utterly screwed. The eviction notice showed up exactly 1 week later. Bright yellow paper taped to my door, impossible to ignore. "Notice to quit or pay rent. You are hereby required to pay the rent now due and in arrears on the above described premises, or quit and deliver up possession of said premises to the landlord within 3 days. 3 days. I had 3 days to come up with $1,200 for rent, plus the $400 late fee, plus somehow figuring out how to pay for food and utilities and the minimum payments on credit cards that were maxed out again thanks to the bounced check. I'd spent the previous week applying to every job posting I could find, but November isn't exactly hiring season for marketing roles. The few companies that responded wanted to schedule interviews for December or January. Even fast food places wanted references from recent employers, and I'd burned that bridge pretty thoroughly. My parents lived in a retirement community in Florida and were on a fixed income. They couldn't help even if I'd been willing to admit what had happened. My other college friends had their own families, their own mortgages, their own problems. On day 2 of the eviction notice, I called every temporary staffing agency in Denver. Most of them couldn't place me until, after Thanksgiving, one agency offered me a 3-day warehouse job that would pay $240 total, not enough for rent, but enough to buy groceries. I took it. On day 3, I packed everything I owned into my Honda Civic. Clothes in the back seat, laptop and important documents in the trunk, sleeping bag and pillow in the passenger seat. I left my furniture, my kitchen stuff, my books, everything that wouldn't fit in the car. The landlord could deal with it. That first night sleeping in my car, I parked behind a 24-hour Denny's, thinking the parking lot would be safe and well lit. At 2 a.m., a security guard knocked on my window and told me to move along. I drove to a Walmart parking lot instead. The November air in Colorado gets cold fast. Even with my sleeping bag and every sweater I owned, I was shivering until dawn. My back cramped from the awkward position, my neck was stiff, and I needed to pee but was too embarrassed to go into Walmart looking like I'd been sleeping in my car. Because that's exactly what I was doing. Day 2 was worse. I realized I had nowhere to shower, nowhere to charge my phone except my car charger, nowhere to store food that needed refrigeration. I bought a gym day pass for $15 just to use the shower and locker room, but I couldn't afford to do that every day. By the end of the first week, I'd figured out a routine. Shower every other day at different gyms with day passes. Park overnight at different Walmarts and 24-hour stores to avoid being noticed. Eat dollar menu items from fast food places. Use the bathroom at gas stations and libraries. The worst part wasn't the physical discomfort. It was the shame. The constant fear that someone would recognize me, that I'd run into a former coworker or a neighbor who'd ask how the new job was going. I started avoiding eye contact with everyone, keeping my head down, trying to be invisible. Every day I checked my phone obsessively, hoping Marcus would respond to my messages, hoping he'd explain what had happened, apologize, offer to help fix the disaster he'd created. Nothing. After 2 weeks, I started wondering if Marcus was even real. Had I imagined our entire friendship? Was I losing my mind? But I had photos of us together, old text conversations, memories that felt too detailed to be fake. Marcus was real. The friendship had been real. The betrayal was real too. And I still had no idea why. 3 weeks into sleeping in my car, I was charging my phone at a Starbucks when I got a Facebook message from Jessica Wu, a mutual friend from college. Hey, weird question, but did something happen between you and Marcus? I saw him at a networking event last night, and when I mentioned you, he got really uncomfortable and changed the subject. My heart started pounding. Marcus was still in town, still going to networking events, living his normal life while I was homeless. I called Jessica immediately. "I'm so glad you called back," she said. "I've been worried about you. Marcus has been acting really strange lately, like guilty about something. And last night when I brought up your name, he literally walked away from me mid-conversation." "Jessica, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me. Has Marcus ever mentioned a company called Tech Flow Dynamics?" "Tech Flow what?" "No, never heard of it. Why?" I told her everything. The job offer, the fake company, Marcus disappearing, losing my apartment. Jessica listened in shocked silence. "Oh my God," she whispered when I finished. "Oh my God. I think I know what happened." "What do you mean?" "Remember my boyfriend Derek? He works at Pinnacle Consulting, that big firm downtown. A couple months ago, he mentioned they were hiring for a client relations position, said it was perfect for someone with marketing experience who wanted to break into consulting. My blood went cold. Marcus works at Pinnacle too, doesn't he? Yeah, he got promoted to senior consultant earlier this year. Derek said, oh God. Derek said Marcus had been talking about some marketing guy he knew who would be perfect for the position, but then suddenly he stopped mentioning it. And last week Derek heard that Marcus got the client relations job himself. The pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. "Jessica, what's the name of Pinnacle's biggest client?" I think it's Morrison Industries. They do manufacturing or something. Derek's always complaining about their marketing budget requirements. Morrison Industries, the parent company of Morrison Marketing, my former employer. Marcus hadn't just stolen a random job opportunity from me. He'd deliberately sabotaged me to eliminate competition for a position working with my former company's parent corporation, a position where my existing relationships and knowledge of their marketing needs would have made me the obvious choice. "There's more," Jessica said quietly. "Derek mentioned that Marcus submitted some marketing portfolio samples as part of his application, campaigns that helped him land the job." "What kind of campaigns?" "Something about dental practice marketing and local business social media strategies." Those were my campaigns, my work, my ideas that I'd shared with Marcus over the years, proud of the small successes I'd had at Morrison. Marcus hadn't just destroyed my career to advance his own, he'd stolen my work to do it. "Jessica, I need Derek's phone number. I need to know everything about how Marcus got that job." "Of course, but are you okay? Where are you staying?" I looked around the Starbucks, at my laptop plugged into the wall, at my car visible through the window with my entire life crammed into the back seat. "I'm figuring it out," I said. For the first time in weeks, that was actually true. Derek agreed to meet me the next day at a coffee shop near Pinnacle Consulting. He was nervous, glancing around like he was worried about being seen, but he wanted to help. "Marcus has been acting weird for months," Derek confirmed. "Ever since he applied for the client relations position, really secretive, really defensive when anyone asked about his background or experience." Derek pulled up Marcus's internal application on his phone. My stomach turned as I read it. "Extensive experience developing integrated marketing campaigns for small and medium businesses, with particular expertise in dental practice marketing and local business social media strategies. Successfully increased client retention rates by 40% through innovative email marketing sequences and targeted Facebook advertising." Every single bullet point was describing work I had done, campaigns I had created, results I had achieved. "Did he submit any portfolio samples?" I asked. Derek nodded and showed me screenshots he'd taken. There were my Morrison marketing campaigns with Marcus's name on them, the dental practice website redesign that had taken me 3 months, the social media strategy that had tripled engagement for a local restaurant chain, even the email sequence that had become Morrison's standard template. "I can get you more information," Derek said. "Marcus has been bragging about this job to everyone who'll listen, talking about how he leveraged his marketing background to land the position. He even mentioned having inside knowledge of Morrison Industries' needs because he had worked closely with their subsidiary operations. He never worked with Morrison Marketing, but I did." "Exactly. Look, there's something else you should know. The position Marcus got, it comes with a $95,000 salary and direct access to Morrison Industries' executive team. He's basically become their primary consultant for all marketing and business development initiatives. $95,000, $10,000 more than the fake job he'd used to destroy my life." Over the next week, I systematically collected evidence. Derek provided me with internal Pinnacle documents showing Marcus's application materials. Jessica helped me get in touch with other mutual friends who confirmed Marcus had been acting strangely and asking weird questions about my work at Morrison. I reached out to former Morrison colleagues who were willing to verify that the campaign samples Marcus had submitted were actually my work. I screenshotted old text conversations where Marcus had asked for details about my projects, claiming he was curious about marketing strategies or interested in understanding my work better. The most damning evidence came from Marcus himself. I found an industry blog post he'd written about innovative approaches to small business marketing, where he described techniques and strategies that were word-for-word identical to presentations I'd given at Morrison team meetings. Presentations Marcus had never attended, describing methods he'd never used for clients he'd never worked with. I even found a LinkedIn post where Marcus had shared one of my campaign case studies, introducing it as a recent project that demonstrates the kind of strategic thinking that drives real results. Dozens of people had commented congratulating him on his excellent work that was mine. But the smoking gun came from an unexpected source. Remember that signing bonus check that had bounced? I tracked down the bank routing number and discovered it belonged to a small community bank in Austin, the same bank where Marcus had opened an account during college. Marcus had written me a fake check from his own bank account, knowing it would bounce after I'd already quit my job. He'd planned every detail of my destruction. Now I was going to plan every detail of his. I spent 3 days putting together a comprehensive evidence package: screenshots, documents, testimony from former colleagues, bank records, social media posts, and a detailed timeline showing how Marcus had systematically stolen my work and used it to advance his career. Then I called Pinnacle Consulting. "I'd like to speak with someone about fraudulent application materials submitted by one of your employees," I told the receptionist. 20 minutes later, I was on a conference call with Pinnacle's HR director and their legal counsel. "Mr. Thompson, these are very serious allegations," the HR director said after I'd presented my evidence. "If what you're saying is true, this would constitute fraud, intellectual property theft, and potentially criminal deception." "Everything I'm telling you is documented and verifiable," I replied. "Marcus Williams submitted my work as his own to obtain a position he wasn't qualified for. He also deliberately sabotaged my career to eliminate competition for that position." The legal counsel asked me to email everything immediately. Within an hour, I had confirmation that Pinnacle was launching an internal investigation. But I wasn't done. I contacted Morrison Industries directly, asking to speak with their executive team about consulting services they'd received from Pinnacle. When I explained that their current consultant had obtained his position using stolen work samples, and that I was the actual creator of the campaigns they'd found so impressive, they agreed to a meeting. "You're telling us that the marketing strategies Marcus Williams presented as his own work were actually developed by you during your time at our subsidiary company?" the Morrison Industries VP asked. "That's correct. I can provide documentation showing these campaigns were developed during my employment at Morrison Marketing between 2019 and 2021. Mr. Williams has never worked in marketing and has no experience with dental practice advertising or local business social media management." They wanted proof. I gave them everything: campaign briefs with my name on them, email chains showing my communications with Morrison Marketing clients, performance reports demonstrating the results I'd achieved, even photos from client meetings and strategy sessions that showed me presenting the work Marcus had claimed as his own. Within 2 days, Morrison Industries terminated their consulting contract with Pinnacle Consulting, citing fraudulent representation and breach of trust. Pinnacle fired Marcus that same afternoon, but I still wasn't finished. Marcus had built his professional reputation on stolen work. I reached out to every company where he'd presented my campaigns as his own work, every networking contact who'd seen him share my case studies, every industry blog that had published articles based on my strategies under his name. I'm contacting you to inform you that marketing campaigns presented by Marcus Williams as his own work were actually developed by me during my employment at Morrison Marketing. I have documentation proving ownership and can provide verification of the actual project timeline and results. The response was swift and brutal. Blog posts were retracted, LinkedIn posts were deleted. Professional connections distanced themselves from Marcus as word spread through the Denver tech and marketing community. Within a week, Marcus Williams had gone from rising consulting star to professional pariah. His reputation was destroyed. His career was over. And everyone in our industry knew exactly why. The call came on a Tuesday morning while I was charging my phone at a McDonald's. "Is this the person who exposed Marcus Williams at Pinnacle Consulting?" the voice asked. My stomach dropped. Had Marcus found out it was me? Was someone calling to defend him? "This is Rebecca Chen from Morrison Industries. We'd like to offer you a position." Rebecca Chen, the Morrison Industries executive I'd met with to explain Marcus's fraud. "We've been impressed by your professionalism throughout this situation, and frankly, we're impressed by the work you did at Morrison Marketing, work that we now realize was instrumental in our subsidiary's success." She offered me the client relations position that Marcus had stolen, $95,000, full benefits, and a signing bonus to help me get back on my feet. But before I could respond, my phone rang again. "This is David Park from Elevate Digital Marketing. We heard about what happened with Marcus Williams, and we'd like to discuss a senior marketing strategist position with our firm." Then another call. "Hi, this is Jennifer Walsh from Creative Solutions Group. We're looking for someone with your background and integrity." Word had spread through the industry, but not in the way I'd expected. Instead of being seen as a victim or a troublemaker, I was being seen as someone with exceptional skills whose work had been good enough to steal and who'd handled a terrible situation with professionalism and evidence-based truth-telling. Over the next week, I received 7 job offers. 7 companies wanted to hire me, and they were competing for my attention. Morrison Industries offered $95,000. Elevate Digital offered $98,000. Creative Solutions Group offered $105,000 plus equity. Each offer was better than the last, as companies realized they were bidding for someone whose work had been impressive enough to build another person's entire career around. I chose Creative Solutions Group, not just for the money, but because they specialized in exactly the kind of innovative marketing campaigns I'd always wanted to create. They offered me creative freedom, a team of talented professionals, and the chance to work with clients who actually valued strategic thinking. My first day at Creative Solutions, I walked into a real office with a real desk and a real paycheck waiting for me. After 2 months of sleeping in my car, showering at gyms, and eating dollar menu meals, I cried in the bathroom during my lunch break. Happy tears, for the first time in months. That afternoon, I found an apartment. A nice 1-bedroom place with a view of the mountains, in a building with a gym and a rooftop deck. I signed the lease on the spot and paid 3 months in advance, just because I could. Marcus had tried to destroy my career to advance his own. Instead, he'd launched me into the best job I'd ever had. 6 months later, I'm writing this from my home office, looking out at the Rocky Mountains, with my rescue dog Jasper sleeping on his bed next to my desk. The client I'm working with today just signed a contract extension worth $200,000, based on a campaign strategy that increased their online engagement by 340%. My team at Creative Solutions treats me like the expert I always was, and my ideas are being implemented by companies across 3 states. I make more money than I ever imagined. I love the work I do, and I wake up every morning grateful for the opportunity to create something meaningful. Marcus tried to contact me last month, a long email full of apologies and explanations, claiming he'd made a mistake and hoping we could work things out. He's been unemployed since Pinnacle fired him, apparently unable to find anyone willing to hire him after word spread about what he'd done. I deleted the email without responding. Some betrayals are unforgivable, and some bridges should stay burned. But here's what I learned from this nightmare. Sometimes the worst thing that happens to you becomes the catalyst for the best thing that happens to you. If Marcus hadn't destroyed my life, I would have stayed at Morrison Marketing forever, undervalued and underpaid, never realizing what I was actually capable of achieving. His betrayal forced me to prove my worth in a way I never would have done otherwise. The evidence I collected to expose his fraud became a portfolio that demonstrated not just my marketing skills, but my integrity, my attention to detail, and my ability to handle crisis situations with professionalism, qualities that employers value even more than creative campaigns. I still don't understand why Marcus chose to destroy our friendship for a job he ended up losing anyway. Maybe he was jealous. Maybe he was desperate. Maybe he's just not the person I thought he was. But I've stopped trying to understand it. What I understand now is that trust should be earned, opportunities should be verified, and sometimes the people closest to you are the ones most capable of hurting you. I also understand that resilience isn't about avoiding bad things, it's about what you choose to do when bad things happen anyway. If you're watching this video because someone betrayed your trust, or because you're facing a situation that seems impossible, I want you to know something. You're stronger than you think you are, and sometimes the worst betrayal becomes the setup for your greatest comeback. Just make sure you have evidence, and never ever give up on yourself. Tell me in the comments, have you ever had a friend betray your trust? How did you handle it, and what would you have done in my situation?